fortunate to be introduced to Kevin O'Leary, who originally wanted to buy a third of the company. Of course, we weren't going to let him do that.
How do you foresee banking changing as crypto gets more democratized and widely accepted?
Software has disrupted every industry. This is really probably the last one. It's one of the biggest ones, which is the financial industry.
Today we have a very special guest with us. His name is Kyle Armour, the Chief Operating Officer at Immutable Holdings, a company backed by strategic investor Kevin O'Leary, as seen on Shark Tank. The company also went public on the NEO exchange in Canada recently. Kyle, thanks so much for saying yes to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
First off, congratulations on being the Chief Operating Officer of Immutable Holdings. And before that, you were the head of crypto partnerships at Hedera Hashgraph. I'm just curious, how did you get into the crypto space in the first place?
Yeah, it was a very interesting journey for me, actually. Started out heavily in computers. I was just telling you before the call, actually, built my first computer when I was 11, 13, started programming. And then by 15, 16, pretty much had a marketing agency where I was assisting, small business owners in their online presence, everything from building web pages to running ads. Once that was a bigger thing, even early days, you didn't really have Google ads or Facebook ads or things like that. So had to be more creative. But through that journey, I actually ended up in the world of nightlife, believe it or not, as a DJ, music producer, and kind of did a little bit of everything in that world. Granted, there's a lot to hustle in that world and a lot of different ways to make money. So that was really what took me in that direction. But at some point in time, I actually have two music degrees, and I ended up moving from Chicago, Illinois to Los Angeles to pursue more of a career in music studios. Certainly being out till 4 or 5 a.m., 4 or 5 nights a week can get exhausting. And while that was a lot of fun in my younger days, I was looking for something a little bit more serious. So ended up moving to Los Angeles, and while I was out there, I actually met a now very close friend, Andrew Masanto, and he had previously built a very successful marketing agency. He had scaled it from himself and then his brother to, I think, over 50 employees, and actually exited the company and was in the very beginning of Facebook ads. And I actually ended up asking him, I was like, hey, how do I scale this marketing agency? At this point, this was around 2016, 17. At this point, I was working, I don't know, 80 hours a week. I was working, every single waking hour pretty much. And I messaged him and I was like, hey, how do I scale my business? What am I doing wrong? I have lots of contracts, I have lots of partners, but trying to find, other employees was very difficult, and finding the right skill set and everything else. And he actually told me, screw your marketing agency. And it was my life. Like, so for someone to say that to me when I had, all of my eggs in one basket and was solely focused on making this business successful was very, very difficult. But initially, I kind of went through the emotions that you would expect. First, I was very angry, and I said, that's disrespectful. Why would you ever say that to me? Like, I'm trying to stay focused here. And then, over time, I started to remember how intelligent he was, and I started to realize he was being serious. He wasn't being sarcastic. He wasn't trying to be mean. And eventually, through conversing with him, I realized that the business that I was in, it wasn't necessarily the right timing. And that's a critical piece for any entrepreneur to understand. It's really good to be passionate and excited about your work, but to achieve, the success at least I wanted to achieve, timing was especially important. So long story short, he did end up convincing me to maybe not focus so much on my marketing agency. And alongside that, he actually told me to invest in something called Ethereum.
Wow.
I knew about it. I knew about Ethereum, but I kind of thought, it was just some other altcoin. Like I knew Bitcoin, and I knew Bitcoin was like kind of the one that really solved the major double spend problem. Uh, but long story short, I then went back and forth with him for about a week on whether I should invest in Ethereum or not, and then eventually I did. And that was around $40, $50 Ethereum, and shortly after that, it had doubled and tripled in probably a month, which was a lot more money than I had ever made than in my marketing company, at least a lot easier anyway. So I quickly kind of moved my marketing agency solely to crypto companies. So I was dealing with a lot of healthcare companies, fintech companies, and I still had a couple artists, musicians, but ultimately decided to move away from those industries and just focus my marketing company solely on crypto.
Very interesting. And that's fun. And I kind of relate to it because I myself got into music production like 2 years ago. And I started producing music, and then I slowly shifted my focus towards business just because I was interested and I was curious. And that's awesome. Glad to know that. And
That's the number one most important thing, is to follow your curiosity, right?
yep. And recently, Immutable Holdings got funded by Kevin O'Leary, right? So, considering our audience of entrepreneurs, it'd be great if you could describe how your company approached him and closed the deal.
Yeah, so that was I won't take any credit for that. That was my partner Jordan, the CEO of Immutable Holdings, who really was able to go and pitch Kevin O'Leary, and we're very fortunate that Jordan and I actually both relocated to San Juan, Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a beautiful island, about 2 hours southeast of Florida, of Miami, and they have some wonderful tax incentives for United States citizens to actually relocate there, and we've taken advantage of some of those. So upon moving down to Puerto Rico, it's a small community of like incentive holders like ourselves, but it is kind of like an expat community. It's very tight knit, and we've been fortunate to meet some very high net worth and very educated and intelligent investors and entrepreneurs, and you name it. And through actually being in Puerto Rico, we were introduced to essentially some real estate guys that owned a lot of real estate in Puerto Rico and also Miami and in Florida, and they were also extremely close to Kevin O'Leary. So we kind of had a handful of introductions that ultimately led us to Bitcoin Miami, which was this past summer, just a couple months ago, and we were here and meeting a lot of different investors, and we were getting ready to do our RTO round, the reverse takeover. And one thing led to another, and we were fortunate to be introduced to Kevin O'Leary, who originally wanted to buy a third of the company. Of course, we weren't going to let him do that. We quickly told him, this isn't your normal Shark Tank deal. We're seasoned entrepreneurs. We've done this before, so and he respected that, and we were able to come to a good agreement with him to bring him on board as one of our largest investors. And things have been good since then.
Sounds awesome. It's truly inspiring. But if you could take a step back and look at the IPO of Immutable Holdings, do you think that the response to the IPO is in line with your expectations for the company?
Absolutely. I mean, I still think we're undervalued based on where we're heading. But to list at 75 cents Canadian and see it go over $5 was certainly very exciting, and helped the awareness, and a lot of new inbound investors came in. So we've been doing a lot of communication there about what we're building, what our priorities are, and kind of the future goals of Immutable Holdings. So.
Very interesting. And I believe having an IPO is a really important milestone for a company, right? Uh, so if you could just give me, you could elaborate on your vision for the company in the next 12 to 24 months. What would that be? Where do you see the company heading?
Sure. Yeah. So obviously we are a holdings company. We call ourselves like the Berkshire Hathaway of crypto, of blockchain. We have many subsidiary businesses all located in Puerto Rico. One of the great things about that is those are also tax incentived companies, which means the company has, potential for more upside. But over the next 12 months, I'll speak to. Things certainly change fast, and being a startup, we are constantly pivoting and kind of seeing where the space is going and trying to take charge on it. But initially, we're just focused on building out a couple of these businesses. We don't want to, try to boil the ocean all at one point in time. So initially, we're really focused on NFT.com. I imagine many of you yourself and many of your viewers are probably familiar with the NFT space and how exciting this has been. We're really focused on scaling out our team. We've hired going on to 10 engineers now, and with across partners, and are really focused on building that out. We hope to launch probably our first public version, sometime in Q1 of next year.
Hmm.
And we have a lot of exciting things. We're kind of bringing, you would imagine, a marketplace of sorts. We have some social profiles of sorts, and a lot of analytics. So big things in the NFT space, big problems that haven't quite been solved yet. But this will be a great thing for the collectors, the creatives, the NFT participants, and it's still so early too. So I constantly am looking at the crypto ecosystem as a whole, which really, maybe 200, 300 million crypto users. Within DeFi, you have maybe 10% of that, and then within the NFT space, it's 50,000 wallets, 100,000 wallets only. So it's still very small. We're certainly seeing it explode from the art side right now, but there are a lot of other use cases, especially more on the corporate side, that are really exciting. So again, NFT.com will be a big one as we continue to roll that out and bring more features on board. And then the one that will probably follow that as well is 1-800-BITCOIN.
Hmm.
1-800-BITCOIN is kind of more of our retail focused, top of funnel type of business where we will run billboard campaigns, infomercials, all the online advertising to basically with the target of assisting people to their first exposure to crypto. Obviously, cryptocurrency can be extremely confusing. People have been trying to make it easier since the beginning, but it's still very difficult. I still have a lot of people who reach out to me and say, "Hey, I can't onboard onto this exchange. I don't know why, or my country is not supported, or I don't know how to get on, or they're not accepting my credit card." The whole slew of problems. So 1-800-BITCOIN will serve kind of as a place where people can email in, can pick up the phone call, and actually speak to someone on the on the other line who will assist them in acquiring Bitcoin if that's what they want, or learning about the technology. And also, we will obviously offer a variety of services to those clients. And then also the third one, really, and this kind of works together with 1-800-BITCOIN, is our asset management business, Immutable Asset Management. So one of the big reasons we are valued where we are is due to the first fund that we launched, which is a HBAR Opportunity One fund. We had the right to purchase a large amount of HBAR, $10 million worth of HBAR at 2 cents, and today it's valued around 25 cents, I think, even after a significant pullback that we've seen in the altcoins, especially. But recently, H bar was at over 50 cents. So a very good ROI for all the investors that came into that fund. We raised the total amount and closed that, but we will stand up a series of additional funds, probably a Bitcoin fund, an Ethereum fund, maybe a DeFi fund, metaverse fund, NFT fund, things like that. We'll get a little more fun with it, but depending on the deals that we're seeing and where we think the space is going. And then hopefully as we have that 1-800 Bitcoin brand as our top of funnel, and we're doing a lot of advertising to that brand, we will find accredited investors that will take exposure to some of the funds in the asset management business. So it's kind of those three parts: NFT.com, 1-800 Bitcoin, and immutable asset management are the main focuses.
Sounds ambitious. And the fact that there are only a few 100 million users of cryptocurrency and NFTs and all that stuff, and this is only going to get democratized in the future. So there's massive upside, which is absolutely crazy to me. But speaking of crypto, uh, the space is throbbing right now with users and ambitions and just people wanting to get on board. So if you had to give some advice to someone who is yet to test the cryptocurrency waters, as they say, what would that be?
Yeah, I think there's some unbelievable influencers and YouTubers and podcasts. That's probably where I would start, maybe like yours right here. So that was really where I learned. It was I was lucky that Coinbase had already been out, and I got I didn't invest until 2016. Coinbase was already a very substantial platform at that point in time. So for someone like me who's pretty computer literate, it was pretty easy for me to understand. But I heavily relied on YouTube and watching videos and trusting certain influencers who certainly knew more than I. I mean, I follow crypto banter pretty regularly. I also follow Anthony Pompliano,
Yeah.
and I pay a lot of attention to what they're doing, and I try to stay finger on the pulse on Twitter as well. But even Binance spent a lot of money to develop a phenomenal knowledge base that really not only talks about just blockchain and the different consensus algorithms and how all the technology works, but also kind of deep dives into a lot of the projects and their teams and their visions and all of these kinds of things. And so I would point people to those outlets. Google is your friend, and try to find maybe one or two, three influencers who maybe you resonate with on slightly a deeper level, and you feel like you can understand them, and maybe come from a similar place. And then I'll follow that up also that at some point in time next year, 1-800 Bitcoin will be releasing some informational products, some master classes and things of that nature that will additionally assist as well. And once we're fully stood up in Q1, I would invite people to pick up the phone and call 1-800 Bitcoin, or email us at info@1800bitcoin.com, and we're here to help you navigate the crypto ecosystem.
Very informative. And in fact, my first, I guess, the way I learned about Bitcoin was from Anthony on his YouTube channel. So he's a great resource. I'll just link down his channel as well in the description. And I'd like to know, how do you foresee banking changing as crypto gets more democratized and widely accepted? And I know this might sound a little silly, but do you think crypto is a direct attack at banking and the whole world of just financial services?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a direct attack, but it is an innovation. Attack seems a little hostile. I think maybe there are some people who are probably hostile towards the banking system, but I don't think it's everyone. And Mark Andreessen and Andreessen Horowitz, they really one of the big quotes that we mentioned on our website is really that software has disrupted every industry. This is really probably the last one. It's in one of the biggest ones, which is the financial industry. It is certainly rewriting everything we know about banking. All of the middlemen who currently exist in banking are being disrupted, and you're seeing that across the board. I mean, for someone like me, it was, I actually really was born in crypto. I didn't do a whole lot of investing in my life prior to crypto, and then having kind of gone almost backwards and taking our company public. It was certainly a learning experience. I had read so much about how this world works, but certainly I didn't know all of it. So to kind of be a crypto company and be coming back to the traditional markets, it's almost painful at times, but it's necessary to kind of meld the transition, right? It can't be completely abrupt. You need to bring both sides and kind of work in both directions. Um, but I definitely see that obviously with Web3, with everything that's happening in DeFi, it is certainly changing. The lending, the borrowing. I really think synthetic assets are going to be huge. Probably will lead the next bull run. We're getting faster ability to create new financial products, which is really interesting. I just saw an ability to actually take digital assets and wrap an NFT around it, and then be able to trade on that NFT and fractionalize that NFT and do really unique things. So obviously the innovation is happening at a breakneck speed. And yes, these incumbent bankers who have frankly had no competition or no innovation are certainly going to be pushed out and forced to find new jobs in the coming years.
Yep. Well, speaking of innovation and disruption, let's move on to our last question, which is about NFTs. So the other day I was watching a video of Kevin, and he was just talking about the application of NFTs in branded watches, so that there are no scammers and there are no counterfeit watches, because you have a proof of verification with the product you're buying. So I would like to know what's your opinion on how the application of NFTs could unfold in the next few years, except of it just being used as an art form, to sell art form instead of that.
Yeah, I think like certificate of authenticity or ownership are both really valid use cases. Certainly, it's not a walk in the park, but the transparency that of being able to see from origin and the entire path of that product's existence, where every single part came from, where it was manufactured, and potentially who the owner actually is at this time, it is a huge innovation. We're already seeing, some really interesting things happen in the real estate market with around ownership, around and now actually. A big thing that I'm seeing happen is just NBA tickets, professional athletes and professional sports leagues who are actually moving towards doing all of their ticketing through NFTs. So imagine your season tickets, right, would be an NFT, and that is going to significantly stop, counterfeit tickets being sold outside of the stadiums. We all have, most everyone has smartphones now, so you're still seeing sometimes when physical tickets are showing up at a stadium. I think that in the near future that will not exist anymore. It'll only be digital tickets, and then there'll only be digital tickets on the blockchain. In which case, it's almost impossible to counterfeit those because it's on a blockchain and they're going to just cross check there. It'll be redeemed once, and then once it's redeemed, it's done. So as long as you are the sole owner, it's not like you're selling multiple copies. That's still an issue. Um, uh, uh, there's a lot of things like that still have to be tweaked, and even frankly, I don't fully understand how we will solve those. But the transparency and full history of a product from its original creation to its now owner will solve a lot of issues in the space for sure.
True, and I see massive opportunity in the e-commerce space, with links with NFTs, because that would really authentic authentify or yeah, it's just gonna
Yep.
make buying and selling easier. Well, let's see how the future unfolds in the next few years. But I really appreciate you coming to the show, and thank you so much for taking out this time to share your knowledge. And I believe this
Thank
is
you.
going to be really helpful for our audience.
Thank you, Sulan. I really appreciate the time.
Yep.